Welcome back to the deep dive, where we take these deep dives into some fascinating topics. Today, it's a silent war, one that's happening right now. A war that's fought not with bombs and bullets, but bits and bytes.
Oh, yeah.
That's right, we're talking cyber warfare, and specifically how artificial intelligence, AI, is completely changing the cybersecurity landscape.
Absolutely.
It's a weapon, it's a shield, it's both. So we've got a few sources to go through today.
Okay.
First, a Forbes article that gives us kind of a panoramic view of cybersecurity in 2025, AI's role and all that. Then a discussion piece that's going to take us into some of the specific challenges of AI in cyber warfare. And lastly, a report by DefStrat that really looks closely at South Asia and the vulnerabilities and countermeasures that they're dealing with in that region as it faces all these increasingly sophisticated cyber attacks.
Right.
So I guess the big question for us today is AI taking over the cybersecurity battlefield, and what does that mean for all of us?
That is the question. And the stakes are definitely higher than ever before. I think what's really fascinating here is that we're not talking about isolated attacks anymore. We're talking about constant campaigns, sophisticated ones.
Right.
Orchestrated by nation states and organized crime syndicates.
So not just some lone hacker in a basement anymore.
No, not at all. And they're often working together, too, which is interesting.
And when you say it's a global enterprise, I mean, the Forbes article mentions that cybercrime is now like the world's third largest economy.
It is.
Bigger than the drug trade. I mean, that's just crazy to think about.
It is. That means they have a ton of resources to just develop even more sophisticated tools and tactics.
Right, exactly. And the attacks themselves are changing, too. Like a few years ago, it was all about ransomware, where systems were held hostage. But now we're seeing the shift to something much quieter, but arguably even more damaging, data exfiltration. So instead of locking up systems, they're stealing sensitive data, threatening to leak it.
Yeah.
And they can avoid headlines, they can avoid law enforcement, but cause some pretty serious consequences for organizations and individuals.
Right. And it's interesting because they talk about how medical records are so incredibly valuable on the dark web.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the DefStrat report emphasizes how vulnerable healthcare is in this landscape.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine your medical history just leaked online.
Yeah, it's a scary thought. It makes you realize how interconnected everything is now in the digital age. But we should talk about AI, the elephant in the room.
Okay, yeah.
The Forbes article called it the double-edged sword of cyber warfare, and for good reason. It's a weapon, it's a tool for defense, it's both.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the one hand, you've got AI being used to create these deep fakes for disinformation campaigns. I mean, imagine a fake video of a world leader saying something inflammatory going viral and causing global chaos. I mean, that's the kind of thing we're talking about. And then you've got the automation and personalization of phishing attacks, making them much harder to resist. The discussion piece was talking about how attackers are downloading open source AI tools, training them on stolen data to create custom attack models.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so it's like they're building their own AI-powered cyber weapons from scratch.
Yeah, it is.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right?
Right.
The same technology can also be used for good.
Yeah.
AI is playing a really important role in cybersecurity defense. We're seeing these advanced threat detection systems that can analyze network traffic in real time and look for any signs of an attack.
Right, almost like a digital guardian angel watching over your network.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
And I think DefStrat actually mentioned a real-world example, an AI system in Singapore that stopped the DDoS attack, distributed denial of service, on its healthcare sector back in 2022.
That's amazing. It's AI being used proactively to actually prevent a cyber attack. But the discussion piece makes a really interesting point. They argue that even with these advances in detection, it's often too late. So they say the focus should be on preventing these attacks, not just reacting to them.
Right, okay. So how do you prevent an attack that's constantly evolving and becoming more sophisticated? I mean, it seems like a daunting task.
Yeah, for sure. I think to understand how to prevent them, we need to understand how AI is making existing vulnerabilities worse. And both the Forbes article and the DisThreat report talk about the expanding attack surface being a major concern. You know, with cloud computing, with all these edge devices, there are just so many more points of entry for attackers. And a lot of times they're poorly protected.
So it's not just your computer anymore. It's your phone, your smart TV, your thermostat, like anything connected to the internet is potentially vulnerable.
Exactly, yeah. And they're getting creative with exploiting those vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
The DifStrat report mentions these operational relay boxes. They're like little devices that control industrial systems. But hackers have found ways to hijack them and turn them into botnets
Oh,
to
wow.
launch these massive attacks that are really difficult to trace, like this one, Raptor Train, which is made up of thousands of these relay boxes. So imagine a scenario where a hacker gains control of all of these boxes,
Yeah.
and they use them to launch a coordinated attack on a power grid
Yeah.
or a financial institution or a hospital.
I mean, that's terrifying. That's like a nightmare scenario for cybersecurity professionals.
It is, yeah.
Trying to stay one step ahead. It's like, trying to plug holes in a dam that just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it really is. And basic security is still often overlooked. Forbes actually had a quote about this. They said, if your program depends on people not clicking something stupid, you've already lost.
Oh.
And it's true. They've been emphasizing patching vulnerabilities for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we still see known vulnerabilities from like 2014 being exploited today.
That is wild. So no matter how sophisticated the technology is, it really does come down to that human factor, right? That one careless click on a phishing email could compromise an entire system.
Absolutely, yeah.
And AI is making those phishing emails even more personalized and convincing.
Right.
So it's going to be even harder to resist those tempting clicks.
Yeah, that's why I think the Destrat report's focus on South Asia is so relevant. They're facing kind of a perfect storm of vulnerabilities. They have this rapid digital transformation happening, but they also have uneven infrastructure,
Right.
skill deficits, and their regulations are really fragmented.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, kind of, unfortunately. And the report provides some pretty chilling case studies to illustrate the real-world consequences. Like in late 2023, a South Asian financial institution was hit with this ransomware attack that just crippled their systems. Millions in losses really shook the region's confidence in their cyber defenses.
Ah, that's awful. But what makes this attack particularly significant?
Well, the attackers used AI to actually bypass their traditional security measures, making the attack much more effective. And it really highlights how AI-powered cybercrime is a growing threat.
So even seemingly robust security systems can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Are there other case studies that they mentioned in the report?
Yeah, there's one from Singapore in 2024 that's really interesting. Do you remember that AI deepfake crisis where those fake videos of Asian leaders caused a major diplomatic incident?
Wait, those were fake. I remember seeing those. I thought they were real.
Yeah, they're so realistic.
It's crazy how easily we can be manipulated.
Right. And it just shows the potential for AI to be used, not just for cybercrime, but for geopolitical manipulation too.
But didn't Defstrat also mention a more positive example from Singapore? Something about an AI system preventing a cyber attack.
Yeah, you're thinking of that 2022 DDoS attack on the healthcare sector. And it's true, the AI system was actually able to predict and then thwart the attack before it could do any real damage.
Okay, that's a little bit of hope there amidst all this.
Yeah, it shows that AI can be a powerful force for good. But, as the report highlights, it really comes down to how we use this technology, how we regulate it, and how we prepare for the challenges that are ahead.
Okay, so we've talked about the threats, the vulnerabilities, and the double-edged sword of AI. What about the future? What kind of predictions are we seeing in the Forbes article?
Well, they predict that AI-driven threats are just going to increase in sophistication and scale. Automation is going to play a key role in that. Imagine attacks launched by AI systems that can learn and adapt in real time.
So they're constantly evolving to bypass our defenses.
Exactly. They also see a rise in what they call triple extortion attacks.
Triple extortion, what is that?
So imagine this. Hackers steal your data, threaten to leak it to your customers, but then they also threaten to disrupt your suppliers unless you pay a ransom.
Wow. Okay, so it's like maximum disruption, maximum fear.
Yeah.
So what can we do to protect ourselves from this stuff? I mean, what kind of strategies are being recommended?
Well, Forbes really emphasizes this multi-layered approach to cybersecurity.
Okay.
You can't just rely on one tool or one solution anymore. You have to integrate multiple layers of protection.
So it's about having a diverse set of defenses.
Yeah, exactly. It's about building more resilience.
Okay. But how do you even begin to do that?
Well, I think it includes things like endpoint detection and response firewalls, AI-driven email protection, and threat intelligence sharing.
So it's about combining technology policy and human awareness to create a comprehensive cybersecurity ecosystem.
Right? It's about recognizing that cybersecurity is not just about technology. It's about people, processes, and creating
Yeah.
a culture where everyone understands the importance of protecting data.
Yeah. Okay, before we move on, I want to circle back to something the Forbes article mentioned. The rise of BYOC, or bring your own computer, and its impact on cybersecurity.
Yeah.
It seemed like a relatively small detail at first, but the more I think about it, the more I realize how significant it is.
You're right, it's not a small detail at all. It's a fundamental shift in how we work and how we interact with technology, and it has huge implications for cybersecurity.
The article points out that as more people use personal devices for work, it creates a much larger attack surface for cybercriminals to target.
Exactly. Imagine a scenario where an employee accidentally downloads malware onto their personal laptop, which they then use to access sensitive company data.
Oh.
Suddenly, that malware has a backdoor into the organization's entire network.
That's a scary thought. And it's not just about malware, is it? The article also highlights how BYOC can make it more difficult to enforce security policies and monitor employee activity.
Absolutely. When employees are using their own devices, it's harder for IT departments to control what software is installed, what websites are accessed, and how data is stored.
Right? It creates a whole new level of complexity for cybersecurity professionals.
Yeah, it really does.
So, what can organizations do to mitigate these risks? Is it even possible to have a secure BYOC environment?
It's definitely possible, but it requires a thoughtful and strategic approach. The Forbes article recommends a few key strategies, all of which involve striking a balance between flexibility and security.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the first step?
First and foremost, organizations need to implement clear and comprehensive BYOC policies. These policies should outline what types of devices are permitted, what security software is required, and what activities are prohibited.
So, it's about setting clear boundaries and expectations from the start.
It's exactly. Employees need to understand what's allowed and what's not allowed when it comes to using their personal devices for work.
Make sense? What else can organizations do?
Well, robust mobile device management, MDM solutions are essential.
Hold on a second. What exactly is an MDM solution? Some of our listeners might not be familiar with that term.
You're right. Let me clarify that MDM stands for mobile device management, and these solutions allow IT departments to remotely monitor and manage employee devices. They can ensure those devices comply with security policies and take action if they don't.
So, it's like having a virtual security guard for every device.
That's a great way to put it. MDM solutions can enforce password policies, remotely wipe data if a device is lost or stolen, and even restrict access to certain applications or websites.
That sounds pretty comprehensive. But technology alone can't solve the problem, can it? The article also stressed the importance of user education and awareness.
You're absolutely right. Even with the best policies and technology in place, human error remains a major vulnerability. That's why organizations need to train their employees on the risks associated with BYOC, how to identify phishing scams, and how to practice good cyber hygiene on their personal devices.
Right. It's about empowering employees to become part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Exactly. And that's a theme that runs throughout the Strat report as well. We can't just rely on technology to protect us from cyber threats. We need a holistic approach that combines technology policy and human awareness.
It's about building a culture of cybersecurity where everyone understands the importance of protecting data and staying vigilant.
Precisely. And that's a culture we need to cultivate, not just within organizations, but within society as a whole.
It's a big challenge, but one we can overcome if we work together.
Absolutely. And speaking of working together, there's another crucial aspect of the Strat report that I think is worth highlighting.
Let's hear it.
It's the section on strengthening cyber resilience. The report argues that we need to move beyond a reactive approach to cybersecurity, where we're constantly playing catch-up with the attackers.
We need to be more proactive, right? Anticipating threats and building systems that can withstand attacks.
Exactly. And the report offers some concrete suggestions for how to achieve this. Firstly, it emphasizes the need for robust incident response plans.
Incident response plans? What are those?
Think of it like a fire drill for cyber attacks. If an attack does occur, organizations need to be able to respond quickly and effectively contain the damage and recover their systems as smoothly as possible.
So it's about having a clear plan in place before the fire even starts.
Precisely. And just like with fire drills, regular testing and practice are essential. You don't want to wait until there's a real fire to figure out how to use the fire extinguisher.
The report also highlights the importance of data backup and recovery, doesn't it?
Absolutely. If data is lost or corrupted during a cyber attack, organizations need to be able to restore it from a secure backup. This minimizes downtime and helps ensure business continuity.
It's like having an insurance policy for your data. You hope you never have to use it, but you're grateful it's there if you do.
Exactly. And it's an insurance policy that every organization, big or small, should have.
The report also talks about the need for a multi-layered approach to cybersecurity, right?
Yes, it emphasizes integrating a variety of tools and techniques to create a more resilient defense. It's about moving away from relying on a single solution, such as a firewall or antivirus software, and instead implementing multiple layers of protection that work together to prevent, detect, and respond to cyber attacks.
So instead of just having a single wall around your castle, you're building multiple walls, moats, and guard towers, making it much harder for attackers to penetrate your defenses.
That's a great analogy. And the report emphasizes that this multi-layered approach should include both technical and non-technical measures.
What do you mean by non-technical measures? Aren't we talking about cybersecurity?
We are, but cybersecurity isn't just about technology. It's also about people and processes. Non-technical measures refer to things like employee training, security awareness campaigns, and strong password policies. These are all essential components of a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy.
It's about creating a culture of cybersecurity where everyone understands the importance of protecting data and staying vigilant.
Exactly. And that's a culture that needs to extend beyond the walls of organizations and into society as a whole. We all have a role to play in strengthening cyber resilience.
The DefStrat report also makes a compelling case for the need for international cooperation and information sharing in cybersecurity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Cybercrime transcends national borders, so we need a global response. The report suggests that international agencies like the United Nations could play a pivotal role in establishing norms and guidelines for responsible AI usage in cybersecurity.
Imagine a world where nations work together to develop and deploy AI-powered defenses, sharing threat intelligence and coordinating their efforts to combat cybercrime. It sounds like a utopian vision, but it's one we should strive for.
I agree. It's a challenging but necessary goal. We're all interconnected in the digital age, and we need to start acting like it when it comes to cybersecurity.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's one more crucial aspect of the DefStrat report that I think we need to discuss.
What's that?
It's the section on the impact of fake news and disinformation on geopolitics. The report argues that the proliferation of AI-generated fake news, particularly through sophisticated techniques like deepfakes, poses a significant threat to global stability.
That's right. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? The ability to create hyper-realistic videos and audio recordings that can be used to spread lies, manipulate public opinion, and even incite violence is a powerful weapon in the wrong hands.
And the report highlights how these deepfakes are becoming increasingly difficult to detect, even for experts.
That's what makes them so dangerous.
Yeah.
They can erode trust in institutions, sow discord among populations, and undermine the very foundations of democracy.
The report gives a specific example from 2023 where a deepfake video purportedly showing a South Asian leader making controversial remarks went viral.
That's right. Even though the video was quickly debunked by experts, the damage was already done. It caused widespread political unrest and strained relations between nations.
It's a stark reminder of the power of disinformation in the digital age. And the report argues that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
As AI technology continues to advance, we can expect to see even more sophisticated and convincing deepfakes. And the potential consequences for geopolitics are enormous.
So what can we do to combat this threat?
The report offers a few key suggestions. Firstly, it stresses the importance of media literacy. We need to educate people about how to identify deepfakes, how to critically evaluate information online, and how to be discerning consumers of news and media.
It's about empowering individuals to become more critical thinkers and less susceptible to manipulation.
Exactly. And then there's the role of social media platforms. The report argues that these platforms need to take more responsibility for the content they host and do more to combat the spread of disinformation.
That includes things like fact-checking, flagging suspicious content, and removing deepfakes when they're identified.
Exactly. And finally, the report emphasizes the need for international cooperation and collaboration.
Right, because disinformation is a global problem that requires a global response.
Precisely. We need to work together to develop and implement technologies that can detect and mitigate deepfakes, as well as establish international norms and standards for responsible AI usage.
It's about creating a global ecosystem of trust and accountability in the digital age.
Absolutely. And that's no easy task. But as the DefStrat report makes clear, it's a task we can't afford to ignore.
This is a fascinating and complex topic, and we've only just scratched the surface, but I think we've laid a solid foundation for understanding the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead in the world of AI and cyber warfare.
I agree. We've explored the evolving threat landscape, the double-edged sword of AI, the importance of cyber resilience, and the need for a holistic and collaborative approach to cybersecurity. It's a lot to process, but it's essential knowledge for anyone navigating the digital world today.
We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up our deep dive and offer some final thoughts on what all of this means for you. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent this whole episode talking about cyber warfare and how AI is changing the game. It's pretty intense stuff, huh?
Yeah, it is. From those AI-powered attacks to the rise of deepfakes, the need to constantly adapt and build resilience. I mean, we've covered some pretty heavy topics, but we've also talked about solutions and how we can fight back.
We started off talking about how cybercrime is now a global enterprise. It's even bigger than the drug trade when it comes to profit. It's kind of scary to think that criminals have that much money to throw around. It means they can develop some really sophisticated tools. And it's not just big companies that are targets anymore, it's regular people like us.
Right. And the Death Strat report really made that clear, especially when it comes to healthcare. I mean, think about it. Your medical records are super valuable on the dark web. The potential for blackmail and extortion is huge if that data gets out. It's a scary thought. It really makes you think twice about your online security. But, even with all these threats, we also talked about how AI can be used to protect us, right? Like with those advanced threat detection systems that can stop attacks in real time.
Yeah, it's like having a digital bodyguard working around the clock.
And those AI prediction models are pretty mind-blowing. The fact that we can use machine learning to see patterns in data and predict cyber attacks before they even happen, that's next level stuff.
It is. And it's already happening. These technologies are getting better all the time.
But technology alone isn't enough, right? We need to change how we think about cybersecurity, both on an individual level and as a society.
Totally agree. We need to teach people about the risks and how to protect themselves. And we need to work together to make sure everyone's doing their part.
And that brings us back to what I think is the biggest theme of this episode. We need a completely new approach to cybersecurity.
It's not just about reacting to attacks anymore. We have to be proactive, we have to anticipate threats, and we need systems that can bounce back from anything.
We can't just focus on our own little corner of the world anymore. We need governments, organizations, and individuals working together.
Absolutely. We need to share information, pool our resources, and develop defenses that can adapt as fast as the threats do.
I mean, the Distrat report even suggested creating a global cyber defense network where countries actually work together to protect each other. It sounds idealistic, but it's probably what we need.
It might be the only way forward.
And of course, we have to talk about AI ethics. We need clear rules and regulations to make sure AI is used for good and not for harm.
Absolutely. We have to balance innovation with responsibility.
And then there's the whole issue of disinformation and deepfakes. It's scary how easy it is to manipulate people with this technology.
It really is. And it's only going to get more sophisticated. It undermines trust. It sows chaos. It's a real threat to democracy itself.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the big things you want our listeners to take away from all this?
I think the most important thing is that cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
Right.
It's not just for the tech experts. It's for all of us.
Right.
We need to pay attention, practice good cyber hygiene, and stay informed.
Right. We have to demand that our governments and organizations take this seriously and actually protect us.
Exactly. Our future depends on it, really. The choices we make now, both individually and as a society, will decide whether we can use AI to build a better future or if it'll be used against us.
So as you go about your day, think about the role technology plays in your life. Think about all the data you create and the systems you depend on. And ask yourself, what can I do to stay safe and informed? How can I help create a more secure future for myself and everyone else?
These are the big questions we need to answer, and I hope our deep dive today has given you the information you need to start finding those answers.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like to show your support. Got thoughts, questions, or ideas? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Subscribe and hit the to stay updated on my latest content. See you in the next video.